Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here this morning with my guest, Bettina Torres. And just Bettina, I'm so thrilled. Thank you so much. I know you are a very, very busy lady. And so I'm just so grateful. We met, 3 years ago via a phone call, and there was an immediate connection because I was born in Germany and you were born in Germany. So we were both able to speak German to one another. And you shared with me your story, which we're going to hear in just a few minutes, and how it's a health journey, I would say, that has evolved into something much bigger than just your own personal health journey. And so right away we were connected in that way because both of us are passionate about promoting wellness. Both of us are passionate about the message that just because you hit 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, you don't have to live in pain or decreased vitality. You can live a very full, wonderful life. And so we were really connected in a lot of ways. And so we're going to get to your story in just a second. But before we do that, I just want to welcome everybody. If you join us, would love to have just say hello to us, give us a shout out. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comment section, and either Bettina or I could get to them later on, or maybe even during the broadcast. And just give us a shout out, thumbs up, let us know that you like it. And if you really love what you hear today and feel like this could benefit somebody that you know, then feel free to share it on your timeline and just reach out to us afterwards. So having said all of that, Bettina, you shared your story and your wellness journey with me when we spoke 3 years ago. And I would just love for you to share that with our listeners and tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to where you're at today.
Yes, so it's all started when I was younger. I always wanted to go into medicine, but never did it like the conventional way. I went back to school in my early 30s, and through circumstances that sometimes happen, it just still changed. I was done with all my pre-med, and I ended up with a degree in global business management and Spanish, of all things.
A little different.
So I was from my early 40s, I already felt limitations in my joints to the effect that I really couldn't wear shoes well. I was living in Southern California in the same area where you are, Karen. And so thank goodness for that. It was warm most of the year and I didn't need to have closed shoes. But the slightest pressure on the joints were bothering me. And also, opening up jars, couldn't raise up my right arm fully. Range of motion started being limited, and what was really, really uncomfortable, like trying to push it beyond a certain point. So thinking like how I would progress really was depressing, because I saw myself becoming my mother, who had her hip replaced, because also my left hip had started bothering me. My left knee was bothering me. And she also had her shoulder operated on and had her hip replaced. So I saw myself becoming my mother at some point. Mm-hmm. And so my first surgery, I think, was around when I was 43 years old. And it took me a long time to get over that and be able to start walking normal, like where I could roll. But the big joint in my toe had stayed stiff, so it was not really bendable. And forget about going skiing. I had loved skiing when I was younger, and going into a ski boot was just unimaginable. And then in 2006, I was now in my late 40s. I was in Germany visiting my family, and I also went to see my aunt who was in Bavaria. And the first thing out of her mouth was, "You got to try my mat." And her mat was a therapy device that helps promote blood flow. And now it made sense. And I also saw how different she was because of her health limitations that had resulted from an accident in early 83, so like in 1983, so more than 20 years prior. And she now was using the BEMER for about a year and a half and was doing really well. And she had been introduced by a doctor. So I paid attention to her. And I made the decision a few months later in early 2007, so 12 years ago, exactly around this time, 12 years ago, I made the decision when BEMER started marketing here in the United States to get a BEMER myself. And I had no clue that I was giving myself this incredible gift of health. I did not expect to improve. I just knew helping blood flow generally is a good thing over a prolonged period of time, because I know we'll have problems as we age, and I already was experiencing problems. So that could only be, facilitating a better quality of life as I was aging. I did not anticipate that all the discomfort that I was already experiencing would basically diminish over time.
Wow.
And I didn't really realize, because just the same as you getting worse in very incremental steps, you may not realize that either, at how you're getting worse.
Yeah.
Right? That the same way when you're getting better, when you're going back up, all those incremental changes you also do not notice. And it was for me this big aha moment. I was in the kitchen and I was trying to open up a glass jar, which normally I would not be able to, and then I had to hand the jar to my husband, ask him, but it popped open, and in that moment I noticed that I was able to make a full fist and it wasn't bothering me.
Wow. Wow.
And that was maybe like several months, 5, 6, or maybe even 7 months after I had started using the BEMER. Now, this device that I was using was the first generation BEMER, where the improvement and the assistance to blood flow lasted about an hour. Today, we have a completely different product. When you go on the BEMER, you are exposed to the stimulation that helps. We can talk about that
yes, we will
in detail, right? But that impact now lasts 12 to 16 hours and is much greater in impact too. So to me, having this device is, this is a big word and it's so commonly used. This is anti-aging, this is anti-aging, but blood flowing, helping fluids move for the remainder of our lives is really anti-aging. Because that guarantees that certain functions that are vital in our bodies get supported. And for me, aging, we all will get old. There's no escaping it. But how do we want to do it? We want to do it gracefully, and we want to retain vitality and do things that we would love to do. And speaking of which, I live now in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm going skiing again. I can raise up my arm, I don't walk around with a limp, and it's just a beautiful gift that I gave myself, and it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Bettina, just really quickly, because I do want to get specifically a little bit more into the technology, because I have to say, with my nursing background, I am a researcher. And when I got into that, it was sort of a no-brainer for me. And so I'm really excited to get into that. But really quickly, going back to that visit with your aunt, without getting into the details of her story, she had some severe limitations and really saw some pretty dramatic results that, I just wanted to say that I imagine really encouraged you that, wow, certain things are possible with this device.
Yes, and that is the, that also gives us the insight into what our body is capable of, because our bodies is innately is self-healing, self-regulating, and we're just supporting a natural process with the use of BEMER, that lends itself, that it's supportive of that natural ability to self-regulate and self-heal. So what I saw in my aunt, because she had a severe car accident, rolled over and slammed into the windshield and basically had no face left. It was in a wheelchair for a long time. That she survived was really amazing. But she had neurological problems for a long, long time. And she tried to go back to her job as a biology teacher, but really couldn't do it and had to retire early. And now she became this more vibrant woman again that I saw a year and a half after she had started using BEMER, and that was very impressive. And
yeah, which is amazing. And again, I want to be really clear. We are very careful here not to make medical claims. Bettina, I love how you talked about the body's ability to heal itself. I always say the body is designed for life and to maintain life. It's absolutely remarkable. But to see such a dramatic result, and since that we've seen many, many dramatic results with this, but we want to be really careful. And I know this is your heart. We don't make medical claims. But having said that, I believe this is a foundational wellness product, as you do as well. So let's go ahead and talk about the specifics. You talked about increasing blood flow, and BEMER does this in a very specific way. So let's talk technology a little bit here.
Okay. Well, for that, we also have to understand our cardiovascular system a little bit better, because what we mostly concentrate on in conventional medicine is our large vessels, and we do have means there. We have medications and surgeries are possible here because these vessels are large enough. The vessel wall itself is thick enough, but that comprises only 26% of our cardiovascular system. The rest of them are really these small vessels that are kind of everywhere. When our heart beats, pushes the blood into those 26% of large vessels, and when it distributes into the small vessels, the heart has an assist. And this assist is in the vessels, in these small arteries and veins, so pre and post capillary, in the capillaries where the exchanges take place. So there's a rhythmic movement, dilation and contraction action in these vessels that pushes the blood along. And that happens now in 74,000 miles of vessels.
That's crazy.
So talking about these small vessels and blood flowing there is highly important, how it ties into health, because it's the exchange. When I'm talking about the exchange that takes place in the capillaries, I mean that there is nutrients and oxygen delivered to the capillary via the capillaries to every single cell in your body. And now think about your cell as its own little self-contained living organism that has a specific function that depends that it gets these nutrients and oxygen delivered. Without that highway of health, or our foundation, which is blood flow, that is not possible. And so if you starve a cell of oxygen, it will die very, very quickly. And when you don't remove the waste that a cell produces, it will just accumulate in that environment. And so the exchange needs to take place, delivering oxygen and nutrients and picking up the waste for our cells to live a healthy life. And our whole being can be healthy and age gracefully and have vitality as we age, right? That needs to take place. And this is the function, this rhythmic movement in these small vessels that make blood flow possible into the capillary beds is what we support with BEMER. And we're doing this in a very specific way. It's an electromagnetic field. It's a pulsating electromagnetic field. It's a patented delivery way. It's a patented wave shape. It's a little bit more complicated to understand, but just imagine that there is a field that we're shaping a very specific way, and this wave shape gets delivered in very specific frequency ranges in a very specific given time frame. And on this whole component that we call the BEMER signal is patented. Yeah. And so no other device can really come close to the impact that we have here on these vessels, that we support these vessels, that they move to an effect that we have sufficient blood flow into the capillary capillary beds. And that's pretty much it. But what we're seeing then in turn, because of this support to these vessels, is that we're improving blood flow, we're improving cellular function. Lots of stuff depends on fluid movement,
Yes.
including our immune system. Our immune system needs to have fluids moving in order to be able to reach areas where there may be pathogens.
Yeah.
And removing the waste, just think about it, that when a cell eliminates its waste and that waste is not being picked up and it's just stuck there and increases and increases, this is a breeding ground for disease causing pathogens like viruses and fungus and bacteria and so forth, which we also always have in our bodies.
Yeah.
So everything is interconnected in this body, and it is via this blood flow that we're supporting here in this non-invasive, with no known side effects way. It's just beautiful.
It is. It's so beautiful. And I mean, my brain is going because, I so get into this stuff, and we can take this conversation in so many directions. But what I really hear you saying is the key to health is cellular health. When you look at every single disease process, and just even going back into my nursing training, there's not one that I can think of that really doesn't start with compromise at the cellular level, because we hear a lot about inflammation nowadays. We hear a lot about pain. All of that is linked. But if you can keep those cells healthy, if you can get those nutrients and blood and oxygen in and the waste out, the cell stays healthy, and ultimately the whole organism stays healthy, which is so wonderful. And again, I hope our listeners caught this. The thing that really resonated with me and that's really remarkable is that by transmitting a frequency that the body recognizes and absorbs and responds to without any negative side effects. And that's the beauty of the body's own innate wisdom, isn't it? So Bettina, who, and again, who could really benefit from this technology?
Anybody. You can use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, today I'm not ailing from anything specific. However, I use it as a regular maintenance. It's like, for me, it has become a part of my lifestyle, like I'm brushing my teeth.
Yes.
Right? I don't only brush my teeth once a month, I brush them every day, twice a day. And that's how I use BEMER. Twice a day for 8 minutes. And so it's a mindset, it's a lifestyle choice. But of course, in a disease state, you always have to think about, no matter what we may label a disease, if you can promote more blood flow to a dysfunctional area, what does that mean? This dysfunctional area will receive more oxygen, more nutrients, helping cells maybe for better self-regulation. Also, delivery of maybe necessary medications is enhanced. Maybe medications can be reduced in conjunction with decisions that only a doctor can make. So it's an absolute team player, also in a medical setting. And athletes love it. Athletes, it has become kind of the secret weapon for athletes, because athletes, high performance athletes, the biggest thing is that something that could lead to a faster regeneration, so they can train more effectively or longer, compete better. And we're seeing this also all over the world. So now, while BEMER has been around now actually 20 years and has been found much greater acceptance also in the medical realm in Europe, but we're seeing great strides here also in the United States, where more and more doctors discover the significance of a technology like that for their own practice, also for their own health. And I just want to point something out when we're talking about blood flow. The consensus is, or goes into the direction that the consensus is that the leading cause of most chronic diseases is a disturbance of blood flowing in these microvessels. And there's there are papers out there like this published in medical journals here in the United States, small blood vessels, big health problems, or the human microcirculation. So those are all indications of that medicine is now kind of shifting, instead of only going for the big vessels where they have good diagnostic tools, that they want to find ways to benefit the small vessel systems where we're lacking diagnostic tools. Yeah. And so here we have a technology that has a really wonderful, great, non-invasive impact already.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. And Bettina, I know that you personally, and I do want to touch on this a little bit, you actually work with a lot of health practitioners, both in the traditional and the non-traditional space. And going back to those doctors that are trained in traditional medicine, I think they're really starting to realize the limitations of a traditional pharmaceutical-based kind of practice. And so what we're finding is a real openness to embrace some of these really effective alternative modalities. And that's, I think, really encouraging to everyone in terms of building more of a broad, holistic kind of view of how the body works and everything. Do you want to share just very briefly? And I'm going to backpedal here. You came over with this device for personal use, and you obviously had tremendous personal results. But share with our listeners a little bit about what you're experiencing now and how you have. It's not only about your own health anymore. You are passionate about bringing this to a much bigger audience, and you've done that.
Yes, and it has something to do with first and foremost, it's a product that has real value, and it's not only for me and my family, but it has value for everyone. And to hold that back it's almost a crime not to share it. That's yes. What I'm saying. Oh, it is a crime not to share what you know. Yeah. And so I started reaching out in the community to like-minded people to encourage them to take a look and to experience it themselves, to open up their minds to other possibilities, also for livelihood, because of course it has become my business. I also opened up a facility to offer BEMER services in conjunction with a very specific exercise regimen to help, especially the elderly, kind of have a soft spot for the elderly who lose mobility and balance, to help them not only with BEMER, but also through a very specific stepping program on very secure exercise equipment at Regeneration Point. That's my facility in Spokane. But on that journey, I have discovered that there are many, many people out there that are seekers. And it is very, very gratifying not only to be able to help someone with their health, we discover their own strength and overcome that where there's so kind of a dark tunnel, now see a light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe even go beyond and have joined me on this journey and trying to educate and help other people. So we have become quite a little army of like-minded people. To me, that experience of helping others just never gets old. Yeah. And it always gives me thrills, hearing other people's stories, and whether it's their own personal stories or their animal stories. Because animals love this device too. They're actually like, we hear many stories when people have a BEMER at home where their four-legged friends or their birds or whatever, or even their goldfish can benefit from the use of the BEMER. Yeah, so I have a beautiful chicken story.
Chicken story.
Yeah. Because we thought she was on her way out, and I think she now has rejoined the flock of the other chickens and is strong on her legs again, and she's eating on her own. And but I went into the coop every day and BEMER'd her, and I think that saved her. Yeah, and she's still with us, clucking around. But yeah, so it can become also a very successful business. I really wasn't looking for it at the time. I was looking to help myself and use it as a product. And I was thinking, because this was completely unknown in 2007, people looked at me and said, "Who the heck are you? And what the heck is a BEMER?" And so I felt like a real pioneer in those days. And we have come leaps and bounds from that point of 12 years ago, and where we are now in the United States. So as you said, I've introduced it to many medical practitioners, from MDs and ODs, or DOs and NDs and acupuncturists and so forth. So I've trained a lot of them on this device as well. I have also become one of the main educators all over the United States, training others to also fulfill those roles. And so it has been an absolutely rewarding business journey as well, where I discovered qualities in myself that I didn't know I had, and have assumed real leadership in this journey with BEMER. Yeah.
So in some ways, that initial desire to study medicine has come full circle for you in probably much bigger ways than you ever imagined.
Yes, and when I found out about BEMER, I've always felt it was just serendipity. It had to be that I was led back to a place where really my heart is.
Yeah,
that's where my heart is. I love science. I love helping people. But I also have really discovered I love the business aspect of it as well. Yeah. So I did, a very well-rounded education, and I'm very proud of myself that I did it in later years, and also graduated despite all the heavy science load course and all the other stuff that I did. That I graduated summa cum laude. So
yeah,
it was really pretty cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. And again, like you said, it really is, there probably is, it's almost a crime if you have a wonderful gift of health, but also a wonderful gift for like-minded people who are passionate about wellness to make an income, because a lot of people have health challenges, but they also have financial challenges. And again, I know we're very like-minded in that. And what a great gift when you can impact people's lives so significantly in both of those ways. So Bettina, you are a remarkable woman. I know, again, we don't have time to go into your story, but I know it wasn't always easy.
No. If everything was easy, you wouldn't really learn. You learn best when you have a little bit of struggle and when you make mistakes. Because then you know how to do it better the next time, right?
Yeah, so
that
true.
Makes you stronger. Yeah.
Right. So kind of as we're wrapping things up here, what are some other resources if people are intrigued with the technology, if they kind of want to look a little bit more, can you just share a few places that people can go and check BEMER out?
Yes, so obviously we have a lot of things on the BEMER YouTube channel. So BEMER corporate you may put in, or BEMER USA, and you can come across a YouTube channel from BEMER where you find a lot of interesting videos. We have also published scientific papers. You can go to pubmed.gov. That's a government library that lists published studies. You can also go to scholar.google.com. And that is also another way to find those studies, maybe a little bit easier. You would put in BEMER therapy or BEMER vascular therapy and come across a lot of the resources that are out there if you wanted to learn a little bit more. We also have a really fantastic 5-minute video that you can also find on this BEMER TV station on YouTube. That I encourage everyone to watch, because it really describes very succinctly on how this works and how it impacts the body.
Yeah, that's so true. In fact, I'm wondering if one of those videos, I'll try to actually post it down in the comments, but I know we have that really remarkable footage of how in real time you can actually see that blood flow increase, which is pretty dramatic. All righty. Well, do you have any last minute thoughts, or maybe a quote, or just something you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, I came across this quote, and it's a Chinese proverb. It goes something like this: if you have something or you know of something that benefits your fellow man, you must share it.
Yeah.
I love that, because that's exactly how I feel, and many feel that have involved themselves with BEMER, that they share it really generously with others. And it's really about educating other people on how their bodies work, and so they can possibly make better decisions for themselves. That's what this is also all about.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, as I said, Bettina, you and I could just continue to talk and talk and talk, and I am just so grateful that you took time today to share with us. Again, I invite any of our listeners, if you have any questions or comments, list them below. Do your own due diligence. Bettina and I are both huge advocates of BEMER as part of our wellness regimen, and I think blood is bottom line important, and just a wonderful way to maintain foundational wellness. So Bettina, thank you so much. Just an absolute privilege and pleasure to be here with you today.
My pleasure as well. Thank you, Karen.
Bye.
Bye-bye.